welcome back to Fat Mama Physics. In this video, I am going to show you this exact same lesson but using the slope y-intercept method here. So let's get started right away. Okay, so in this one, we have these all these graphs that intersect the origin, and we know when something intersects the origin, the y-intercept is 0. Meaning, in our y equals mx plus b equation, we don't have the plus b because there's no intercept. We just have y is equal to mx. And based off of that, you can kind of tell how these equations look very similar to those. And based off of all these equations, we just look at the slope, and then that's it. That's how we figure out which graph is which. We don't even need to find out the coordinates or anything like that. We do know the pattern, of course, and this is in the previous video, but we can talk about that in terms of slope for sure. Now let's start with the first one. Our first one here is y equals to x. Remember, if there are no coefficients in front of a particular variable, it has an imaginary coefficient of 1 times that variable. So in fact, for number 1, the slope is 1. So m is equal to 1, or slope is 1, okay? So if we take a look at all of our graphs, the only graph that has a slope of 1 is, if you look at graph C, it goes over by 1, up by 1, over by 1, up by 1. So that's a constant rate of one slope, a slope of 1. So by default, we know this is graph C, okay? For number 2, we have a slope of 2, which is 2 is in front of the x, so m is equal to 2, meaning if we go over by 1, in our run, we should go up by 2 in our rise. So that one is our graph A. We go over by 1, up by 2, over by 1, up by 2, over 1 by, up by 2. So this must be graph A. Also, in the third one, okay, and notice that both of these slopes, they were positive, meaning our slopes will also be going upwards, not sloping downwards like downhill. But the third one, we do have something that is negative. We do have a negative slope here. So our slope here is -3, meaning that every time we go over by 1, we're going to drop down by 3. And that, if we take a look at slope B, is exactly what it is. If we go over by 1, drop by 3. Over by 1, drop by 3. Over by 1, drop by 3. So number 3, it is graph B. Okay, so there we go. I mean, I'm not going to write down these patterns on 1, 2, and 3 because I did in the previous video. You can just go back to it and take a look at what it would say. But basically, for, let's say, the first one, if I increase x by 1, I will increase y by the same value. If I increase x by 1, I will increase y by 2, just like the meaning of the slope. You're pretty much writing out what the slope is at that point. So let's take a look at this graph. And if you haven't watched the last video, if you did, you probably know what it is. But instead of identifying points and everything, I am going to ask you to use this equation, identify the y-intercept, identify the slope, and use that to identify which graph it is. By all means, this is probably graph 1 in Roman numerals, graph 2 and graph 3 in Roman numerals, just the labeling is wrong here. That's 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to give you a quick minute to decide which graph it is based off of the slope y-intercept format. Good time to pause the video. Okay, so if you said that the y-intercept is -4, then you are correct. And if you said the slope was 3, then you're on the right track. Now here's the interesting thing. Notice the slope in all of these lines are all the same, okay? The slope is all the same. So there would be no way for you to use the slope to differentiate those 3. And if you take a look, since they slope the same way, they should all have a run of 1 and a rise of 3. So double check. Run of 1, rise of 3. And over here, run of 1, rise of 3. Over here, we have run of 1, rise of 3. They all have the same slope because they all have the same steepness. But the one that is going to decide which one is which is the y-intercept. The y-intercept of -4 means your graph will intercept the y-axis at -4, which is only this guy over here. Notice this graph touches -4 on the y-axis, so it must be graph 3. Okay, so graph 3 is the answer here. And that's it. So notice how quick that was. Just knowing your slope y-intercept form. You don't have to figure out coordinates and match all that. Okay, so in the next upcoming videos, I will be doing the same thing, where I will have the same lesson, but in the version of the slope y-intercept perspective. Okay, good luck for doing. Good job for doing all this, and learning the slope y-intercept is going to be so useful to you for all your labs in science, even grade 9, grade 10, even in math. So kudos. Wish you good luck. Thank you for watching. Fan Mama Physics signing out.